My guest today on These Sages is a distinguished professor. And I'm talking here about an emeritus professor of extraordinary nature. He's an activist, a poet, a man with so many competencies that sometimes you're not sure. His background in science is the least of the things that sometimes people know about him. But his extraordinary work in other areas has always made him a man who stands out amongst his peers in many fields. Today, we will be getting to know a lot more about him and exploring the vexed matters of importance, not only to Nigeria, but also to the entire continent. Emeritus Professor Steve Okecha. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
I hope you are doing well, sir.
Pretty fine, thank you.
But before becoming this distinguished personality, you had to have sprung from somewhere. Prof, would you be kind enough to let us know a little bit into that origin that groomed a man of your stature, timber, and caliber?
Yes, I come from a town called Obiarabo in the Delta State of Nigeria. The town was founded on the banks of Ethiop River. This river has a source that is mysterious up to now.
Okay.
And I grew up in that system. But my town also had a well-known timber company called Nigeria Hardwood Company. At that time, at 6:30 every morning, the siren of that company played across the town, and the workers all ran and all rode their bicycles, usually Rouge bicycle or rally bicycle, as fast as they could across the river to the company to clock in. My town produces the best gari in the whole world.
That's
I
interesting.
hope you know what gari is.
Certainly.
Gari is a staple food in West Africa.
True.
It is a fresh, starchy cassava. We produce high quality cassava gari in my own town. As I was growing up, or as soon as I was born, really, I was given a name born by my paternal great-grandfather, Agwo, A-G-W-O, Agwo. The name was given to me, also, because I am his certified incarnation. I hope you know what incarnation is.
Yes. Yeah.
So I bear the name of my great-grandfather. To grow up in that system, my father was a gifted craftsman, and my mother was a trader and a well-known community woman leader. There was something peculiar about my father. He had only one wife throughout his life. This is interesting because in his generation, men of his status prided themselves over multiple wives, But my mother had just only one wife, and they had 8 children, and I'm the eldest of the 8 children. I have a younger brother called George Emeritus Okecha, he's a mathematician, a professor of numerical analysis, who specialized in numerical integral equations. He's retired as a professor now. He used to be in South Africa, the University of Calabar, back in Nigeria now. So that's it. In my family, we have a family a senior nursing sister, a pharmacist, a microbiologist, among. There was also, I grew up to know my maternal grandfather. My grandfather had no formal education, but he had worked as a court messenger in the colonial administration. He was very fond of me. I knew him. I was about 3 years old. But he was fond of me because I was his first grandchild. Quite often, he took me along to visit his relations and friends. In fact, I was more or less his walking stick. The interesting thing that anytime I moved out, I went out with him, as young as I was, and he saw a young man or boy misbehaving, my grandfather would scold the young man, saying, "Who are you? Naughty boy. Who are you?" This man never went to school, but he spoke these words in excellent Oxford accent. So that's how I grew up, and he was fond of me, as I said. I went to primary school. It was called the Christ the King Catholic Primary School, Obiara, where I spent only 5 years as a result of accelerated promotions, when in a time, really, when brilliant pupils spent 8 years to complete their primary school education. I attended the famous government college in Ghana. This school was of the mold of Achimota College in Ghana.
Okay.
We had everything: good food, good great medical care, excellent teaching and sporting facilities, great teachers. In fact, Ayo Banjo, who taught me English at Government College Uheli, had a master's degree from University of Ghana. He later became the Vice Chancellor of the University of Ibadan. At college, I played football, cricket, and table tennis.
I see.
I also cricket, and I also was an athlete, being a long distance runner. And I also played the piano. My wife actually is a retired professor of educational administration. And she had served as the director of the Institute of Education. We have 5 children, 4 boys, 1 girl, all graduates, university graduates. In fact, we gave them, all their names are Okwani names, because we are Okwani speaking people. All their names are Okwani people. Some of them are in UK, they're scattered all over the 5. One of them is Uliseyenum Enudeme Okecha. The other boy, who is the managing director in Abuja, is Otunuya Nimam Okecha. I have another boy also, who's a chemical engineer. Uchebenu Ebinum Okecha. And my only girl, my only daughter is Kirikume Etigwam Okecha. I'm my youngest child, who is in UK now, lectures in the UK, is Chinkwanu Mwabuwe Okecha. These are typical Okwani names. They were given these names because of my tribal or ethnic consciousness.
No, it's interesting, Prof. I know that you've just transitioned from talking about how you grew up into now adding on the entire family. What I see as a trend is a household deeply ingrained in academics, from professor and the wife also being a professor, through to children with advanced degrees. Has all of this got anything at all to do with your own philosophies in life?
Yes, because personally, I believe that knowledge is power. Knowledge is power, and as you know, or probably know, Nelson Mandela once said, education is the most powerful weapon with which you can change the world. And of course, also, Aristotle also said that education is the creation of a sound mind in a sound body. And there is another quotation, Martin Luther, which I love very much. Martin Luther once said that the prosperity of a country depends not on the abundance of its resources, nor on the strength of its fortifications, nor on the beauty of its public buildings, but it consists in its cultivated men of education, enlightenment, and character. These are the guiding principles, the Constitution by guiding principle, because I believe I emphasize scholarship and intellectualism. These are that's my Constitution. You can see that's why we run a family that is a bit intellectual. We think that, yes, people talk about materialism, but that's not the issue for us. We think that knowledge is power.
That's an interesting perspective. And of course, a professor household will prioritize education. So permit me to explore that theme a little bit. Now, what is happening is that we know you're a man deeply concerned about what you consider to be decay in educational standards and systems recently. I mean, we will talk about broadly, but more importantly, in Nigeria. You drill it down some way, somehow, to the impact of that military leadership of Yakubu Gowon. Please tell us more about that.
Yeah, Yakubu Gowon, a pleasant man, but he was responsible for the genesis of the demystification, decay, and humiliation of the Nigerian university system. In 1973, there was nothing called ASU, Academic University, what they call ASU in Nigeria. What you used to have was Association of University Teachers, AUT. In 1973, there was a dispute between the AUT, the Nigerian University Teachers, and Gowon's military administration over welfare and conditions of service. There was a real dispute. In the course of the dispute, Gowon once said, ordered actually, that all pack and go, all university lecturers, professors should pack and go order. He gave, it was an ultimate, very serious, 1973. At that time, university lecturers had no house. They had no houses in their villages or in towns, not even huts. They spent all their time, scholars in research to publish findings in prestigious journals. Nobody cared about naturalism. So it was an embarrassment. Nowhere to go. What the university lecturers did then was to swallow the pride, bent over backward, and called off the strike. Believe me, that was the beginning of the demystification, the decay, and humiliation of the Nigerian university system.
I need to explore that further. Now, the other question related to this is a running theme in your books. You seem to suggest that there's a generation of home-based academics. You call it a wasted generation, even though it's capable of doing world-class research, who bow to the forces of patriotism only to be denied midway in their career the luster and the loftiness of the ivory tower by a nation without vision. Powerful words. But why do you think that's so?
You know, in those days, top flight academics, Nigerians, had the best training and exposure in different parts of the world, and also locally in Nigeria as well. After all the exposure, working with quality and top flight academic, some of them, a number of them, returned home. And those of them who were nurtured, brought up in Nigeria, also remained at home. You know, and because at that time, there were facilities for teaching and research. But as time went on, deterioration setting, ordinary basic facilities like water, electricity, and municipal facilities just began to dwindle to the point that they were not even available anymore. So doing research to your taste was no longer possible. So it was frustrating. So these top flight academics who were capable of doing more research began to regret. I personally, I participated in stock. Yes, I also had some postdoctoral work at the University of Uppsala, a university that was founded in 1477.
Okay.
I did some work at the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm, and where I worked with one professor, Torbjörn Norin, and I synthesized a novel substance, chemical, called transpirillina, which is a substance that we found in the abdomen of the pine sulfide. And it was capable of, it could be used as for biological pest control. So we did, and it was a breakthrough, actually, when I synthesized that substance. I mean, the department was like, oh, jubilation. So, no, I wasn't the only one. Many Nigerians were capable of doing things like that anywhere. But we chose to remain in Nigeria. And then only to be frustrated by a country like this. Because when I said only to be denied midway in their career, the luster and loftiness of the ivory tower by a nation without vision. And of course, it has to be a nation without vision to plunge academics, top flight academics, into humiliation and frustration.
Now, one can easily discern that you were heavily uncomfortable or deeply concerned about the humiliation you just mentioned, especially one meted out to an eminent surgeon and former Vice Chancellor, Professor Thomas. I mean, let us in on what really happened and why it is of particular concern or has been for you.
Professor Horatio Usejolomi Thomas was the Vice Chancellor of the University of Ibadan. That professor had an aristocratic pedigree and was the foremost surgeon in Africa. But one day, in 1975, the military administration just relieved him of his post. He was sacked as Vice Chancellor. No reason was given. He wasn't accused of embezzlement. He wasn't accused of mismanagement. He wasn't accused of ineptitude, but he was just sacked. And the most annoying part was that he was sacked on a very important day in the university, where there was a very important function in the university with many dignitaries around. Actually, the man did not live long after that occasion. Very sad. So, and the most annoying part of it, after he had been sacked, without reason, a chief, a traditional chief, was appointed Vice Chancellor of the University of Ibadan. He had retired at the head of service of the civil service of Western Nigeria, Western region of Nigeria. Of course, the man was clever enough and smart enough. He softly declined the offer. That was also a further demystification and humiliation of the Nigerian university system.
Now, you certainly appear to have some soft side for intellectuals and academics who can stare down dictators and call their bluff in order to protect academic independence and the autonomy of universities in Nigeria. Now, let us get it. What went wrong? And why are there a few of those numbers in these days?
Beautiful question. In those days, we had great scholars, what they call scholar activists.
Okay.
In Nigeria, no, there was scholar activism in Nigeria at that time, who confronted dictators. You know, we had names like one Escort Toyod from the University of Calabar. We had also a well-known person, Bala Osman Ahmadu Bello University. We also had Ayodele, the University of Lagos, Olaoni of the University of Ibadan, and Festus Iyayi at the University of Benin. These people were stalwart intellectuals and who could not take any nonsense from dictators. They fought for this. Now, the question, we still have a handful of them now, this generation, but well, just a handful, but not as vibrant as those in the past. Now, what happens now? Why has the situation changed? It's clear. There are reasons why. The political climate is unfavorable. And again, too, there's poverty in the land. So nowadays, a lot of people go for the carrots and as we say in Nigeria, there is what we call a stomach infrastructure. So this is why, but mainly poverty and lack of facility to do your work. So there's no fulfillment really. So you are not surprised that if the number of scholar activists is being in a country like this.
Now, it's very interesting to find out that in your no-nonsense usual approach and blunt nature, you've had tough words for former leaders of your country. In fact, you basically described General Sani Abacha as a near illiterate. You have also expressed disgust at the failure of another leader in the person of General Buhari in his quest to identify or locate any of his educational certificates. Why do these things appear to matter to you? Why are they of essence to how you judge a man and their capabilities?
And maybe I should have mentioned that when I was at Ahmadu Bello University, one of the students I taught chemistry at undergraduate and postgraduate level was the late President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua. He was my student.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And you can see, even when he governed, they could see the difference. They said he had the problem of sickness, illness, and all that, from beginning. But you could see the difference. There's nothing like going to school. You don't rule now. As I said, as I always said, you have to rule a country, really. One has to go to school. Integrity is not enough. You need a combination of education and integrity, not just the man is the man of integrity. I'm not bothered about that. You have to go to school. In fact, in the book, in this book that I have written, which I wrote, in Nigerian University, Downswings and Way Forward, I listed so many heads of state and presidents all over the world, their ages, their qualifications, and you could see that those who make waves in the country, their various countries, are people who have gone to school. I had to talk about Abacha. Abacha really basically didn't go to school, strictly speaking. Which secondary school go to? And Buhari said, went to Katsina Provincial Secondary School. Up till now, we're still searching for Buhari's school certificate, West African school certificate result. Up till now. All he showed us at one time was a photograph of some of his students wearing the same uniform or something with him as evidence of his attendance at secondary school. Do photographs, these photographs of students, do they represent school certificate? You should stop talking. So these two leaders, actually, were not well educated as compared to Obasanjo, for example. Obasanjo, as a military, you can see Obasanjo now, he's a changed man, born again academic. He's gone to school, he's trained himself, and he's a world leader now. There's no substitute for going to school for a leader. And that is the point. And Nigerians are aware that these two people mentioned didn't quite, let me use the word, didn't quite go to school.
Is this standard a Nigerian thing, or you think it should cut across? You did mention that in your book, you had listed the qualifications of some leaders. Is this problem of poor education and its impact or its reflection in one's governance something that cuts across, especially on the African continent, or it's an isolated problem in Nigeria?
No, not quite. Not just isolated. I mean, let's see. Zuma didn't go to school.
All right.
Zuma
Yeah.
go to school. We have to be very frank. Yeah, he was a freedom fighter, but that's different from going to school. So what I'm saying, what I listed in my book, all over different parts brought selected heads of states and president and prime minister, Africa, and all over the place, other parts of the world too. But so what I'm saying is not a Nigerian affair. Look, there are some African countries, for example, whose leaders are very poor academically. So it's not, I mentioned Zuma's one. Zuma didn't go to school. He was self-taught. I'm not saying that being self-taught is a bad thing, but he didn't go to school, formal school, like my grandfather.
No, that's an interesting point. Now, you seem to suggest that intellectualism or scholarship is a calling. Care to expand that for us?
Yes. Calling, what does calling really mean? Calling means business, pursuit, vocation, So so vocation is one's calling. Pursuit is one's calling, and destiny, if you like, is one's calling. Look at this. A pastor, could have a calling. You need to be called to be a pastor or something. Monkhood, monasticity, monarchism. These are is also a calling, But most of these people, some of the African people, particularly in Nigeria or Africa too, many of them regard themselves as scholars or intellectuals. No, there's more to scholarship than others. There are a number of people who you could have a PhD. One could have a first class, but may not necessarily be an intellect. So I've seen first class candidates who dropped out of graduate school. One could have a PhD in chemistry, but may not face the rigors of research in chemistry to widen the scope of the discipline. So these are not just fine degrees or something. There's more to intellectualism or scholarship than just fine certificates.
Do you think it is given its pride or place in Nigeria?
What? Which one?
Scholarship.
Scholarship.
Yeah.
No, why should they? It's not. Because emphasis in a country like this is on cash money. Look, Nigerian government some years ago sent a couple of first-class graduates overseas to pursue their postgraduate studies and return to Nigeria to serve their father. Do you know what happened?
No.
They were abandoned in midstream. Their money wasn't sent to them anymore. They were frustrated. In fact, some of them took to the streets in Cambridge. They demonstrated against the government. The government has sent them to obtain postgraduate certificates and come to serve. So we're not quite serious. Right? There's emphasis is on cash. That's the problem now, money. That's why the system has lost its value. Who is talking about scholarship? Now, if a professor of my standing, if I go somewhere for a function, I'm sure they will give precedence to a local government chairman. And while I tiptoed to a popular seat to be sandwiched between rascals, you know.
Now, let's focus a little bit on the issue of fake professors, improperly awarded doctorates or honorary degrees and the like. Now, you tell a very interesting story about the University of Ibadan. In its heyday, refusing the instructions of then leader Yakubu Gowon to give an honorary doctorate to Haile Selassie. Can you please give us some detail about this particular interesting story?
Haile Selassie was the leader of Ethiopia, of course, and Emperor Haile Selassie was the leader of Ethiopia. And he was once based in Nigeria when the one was military head of state. So, Gowon wanted to please him and honor him by asking the University of Ibadan through the Chairman of Council. The Chairman of Council was Dr. Samuel Manoa, through the Chairman of Council to the university to organize a special convocation to confer an honorary doctorate degree on Haile Selassie. The Senate of the university met and objected. They said no, that Haile Selassie had not helped his people to develop. There was poverty, abject poverty. There was total neglect of the people. Now, there had nothing really to put in his citation. And refused. They communicated the Vice Chancellor communicated the decision of the Senate to the Chairman of Council, Sir Manoa. The man was rattled, the Chairman of Council was rattled, couldn't believe it. He now convened a joint meeting of the Council and the Senate to discuss this. They met, the Senate, of course, members of the Senate were more, but they vehemently opposed the award for the honorary degree. Sir Manoa, Chairman of Council, had to convey decision of the Senate joint meeting of Senate and Council to go on. To be frank with you, I have the greatest respect for Gowon, for his show of humility, for his, his refinement, personal refinement. Because he, as head of state and commander-in-chief, would have ordered, would have possibly asked the person to confer the degree, would have sacked the vice chancellor, would have dissolved the council, and I really have a praise for Gowon for not tampering, not interfering with the university autonomy.
Now, I need to bring in this point because it's quite controversial. You have had cause to talk about the Pentecostal virus plaguing the Nigerian university system. I must say, very few people are able to stick out their necks and make comments like that. I need you to deal with this matter for me. First, what is this Pentecostal virus and how serious and menacing is it to the Nigerian education or university system?
When I was at Ahmadu Bello University, because that's where I did, that's where I started lecturing and grew through the ranks to the peak of my career. When I was at Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, no students left my lectures for prayers. No students left my my practicals in the laboratory for prayer. But when I moved to southern Nigeria, I observed a disturbing inclination of university students to prayers at the expense of their lectures. Strange for somebody, who came from the north. There was no such thing. I am not opposed to. Look, there is religiosity. In fact, for you, as religiosity and spirituality. In fact, for me to answer this question, I need to bless myself with the sign of the cross, because I need God's protection. Because this is a delicate. I did. So spiritual. What is religiosity? Is strong religious belief, or strong strong religious feeling or belief. Why is spirituality has to do with what search for meaning in life, search for purpose, and search for some connection to higher being or superior being, But I am not opposed to spirituality or religiosity. There are very many people. There are great scholars. There are great scholars who are Christians. There are great scholars who are Muslims. There are great scholars who are Buddhists. There are great scholars who are traditional worshippers. And there are great scholars who are blatant non-conformists. Believe me, most of the hymns, all these ancient hymns people sing in churches, many of them were written by Oxford Dons, So religion, so what I'm trying, scholarship and, we've never, great scholars have really not distanced themselves from religion or religiosity, This is the point. And it's painful that Nigerians, there are some lectures in Nigerian university. You come to the south, southern Nigeria, in all Nigerian universities in the south, lecture may be going, maybe half of the class is receiving lectures, or more than half are outside or clapping hands in one another classroom, praying, and things like that. The question is that, can one really be a medical doctor through prayer and clapping hands forever? Can one be an engineer that way? So there's something wrong. I just pray that it doesn't go spread. I'm trying to find out this from world, find out how far this thing has gone in other parts of Africa. But Nigeria is wrecked.
Oh,
and
okay.
The worst part of it is that even professors and lecturers are involved. They clap hands, they preach to these students, abandon lectures. Some of them don't even attend lectures. So there is a problem. Or this is a virus is spreading. I regard it as a virus, But this can't be curbed, these things. What I expect now Nigerian university students to do is to read their Bible at the appropriate time, say their prayers at the appropriate time, and face their studies squarely. That's what I want them to do. You need because they need to be told. Pope John Paul II, now St. John Paul II, was a great intellect and polyglot. He spoke 15 world languages. including Swahili, Pope Francis that we have now was a student of humanities and had a master's degree in philosophy. Archbishop Justin Welby, the head of the Anglican Church worldwide, was a student, had a degree in history and law from Cambridge University. And he has written a number of exciting books. In Ghana, I know, Reverend Professor Johnson Kwabene Yard
Asamoah, yeah.
Yeah, he's an accomplished intellectual with a PhD from the University of Birmingham. In Nigeria, we have a number of Pentecostal pastors who are highly educated. Enoch Adegboye, General Overseer of Redeemed Church of Christ, has a PhD in mathematics. William Fulrenshaw Kumuyi, General Superintendent of Deeper Life Ministry, has a degree in applied mathematics. David Oyedepo of Winners Chapel is an architect and also has an honorary PhD from the University of Honolulu in the United States. We have a fantastic Nigerian, Matthew Hazan Kuka, the Catholic Bishop of Sokoto Diocese, a vibrant, highly intellectual clergyman. These are all Nigerians. So I want students, I'm surprised that students don't even know these people, to humiliate them. How do you stop this Pentecostal virus? Simple. One of the ways is during the orientation course, during the orientation program, that's when fresh students come into the university.
Yeah.
The university usually organizes some welcome lectures or things to welcome the students. During the orientation program, the new intakes in the university should be instructed and warned never to absent themselves from lectures and practicals. They should be advised never to join funny groups that will stop them from attending their lectures and practicals. Another thing again is that the university authority should not allow classrooms to be used as churches anymore. This is not, during I call them academic hours, like during lecture period, you see some universities clapping hands here and there, disturbing the peace of the band. And the universities in Nigeria are now becoming too noisy. Because the university is supposed to be, the university is a place for reflection. The serenity reigns. Nigerian university is too noisy now through these Pentecostal clapping here and there all over the place. Now, another thing again to stop or minimize or stop this Pentecostalism is to only designate a particular portion of the university for public preaching, not just any classroom. And another thing is that to ban prayers and all this during lecture hours should be banned. Such prayers and preaching should be banned. And the university set up a ban enforcement committee to monitor student activities are hot is a mess. Another way perhaps is attendance register. To have attendance register created to monitor attendance of students during lectures and practicals. These are ways to cover this in this. But the annoying part, let me just tell you, recently, very recent, the leader of a Pentecostal church, an academic in himself, has declared that Nigeria should pray for 100 days so that Nigeria will progress. Recently, maybe about a week or 2 days ago, 2 weeks ago, the man has a fear, that in Nigeria should pray for 100 days so that Nigeria will progress in the year 2025. You know what that means? The man would then say that the millions of Nigerian workforce and the students should abandon their duties, their duties and lectures, studies, and pray so that Nigeria can progress.
But if that's what it takes for a country like Nigeria to make progress, if the prayer which works according to the Bible is the solution, Prof, why are you distinctively opposed to this religious solution of prayer fixing the problems of society?
Look, my brother, let me let you have to know, I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian. I'm not joking. I am a Christian. But what are we talking about? You know what that man said? It means that 27% of the year, 100 days is 27% of the year, should be devoted to prayers, my brother. Does it make sense to you? Honestly. Has any country landed on the moon through prayers alone and fasting alone? Has anybody climbed the Himalaya mountains through prayers and fasting alone? I think there is don't get me wrong. I'm not opposed to religiosity. I'm not opposed to spirituality. Far from it. I am saying that you must prioritize activities. If it is time for prayer, go for your prayer. If it is time for your books, go for your books. That's the point. So don't get me wrong that you need prayers for everything. Well, everybody should stop working. You should actually stop. You should stop what you're doing now. You're excellent job. You're doing as
I get your point. I get your call for balance. Call for a distinctive time and appreciation of what to do and when. This is not only a Nigerian phenomenon. What you describe, it's almost like what happens in Ghana. And I understand in other places too on the continent. Is it the modern African's inclination, or there's something fundamentally wrong with the kind of training and thinking modern Christians have about their religion and its practice?
What do you mean, modern Christians? Modern what, Nigerian Christians?
Yes.
Or is that, don't they have Christians in America?
They do, certainly.
Are those Christians, are they not winning Nobel Prizes in America?
Mm-hmm. They are.
Come on.
Now, Prof, it's an interesting point you were making there. Do they, when you raise these matters, do you get opposition? Do you get people who oppose your thoughts on this matter?
Yeah, maybe so. Yes, many of them are not quite bold enough to come out and say so. But well, they do. Some of them appreciate what we're doing. Academic I will not be happy when I talk about, students, because many of the lecturers have misbehaved now. The careers are no longer scholars, to hear things like that when you tell it. But most people actually they don't oppose really. A journalist I'm sure you have heard, veteran Dan Agbesa.
Okay.
Yes, they believe somehow, many of them believe what I'm saying, and they say it quietly too, some of them. But I have no, my brother, I have no apology. I wish Africa, I wish Nigeria well. That's all.
We are having a conversation with the outspoken, the activist, the distinguished Professor Steve Okecha. And it's been very exciting if you just join the conversation. After this break, we'll be hearing a lot more from Prof on very exciting matters too in other areas. You welcome back to the Sages, and my guest today is a man of great renown, and the first part of the conversation has been very exciting. He is a man who is fearless and also take on matters of importance, not only in Nigeria, but across the world, especially when it comes to higher education and learning. Professor Steve Okecha, you're welcome back, sir. We were on the point of getting to find out from you whether people really oppose, especially your thoughts about what you call the Pentecostal virus, and many of the other things that you share and dearly share with the rest of the Republic. Of course, we know that you're not only a scientist, you're also an activist and of emeritus nature, so you have basis and foundation to make some of these points. I want to stay a while longer within the education sphere. There is a lot of talk about the role of the accreditation system in Nigeria's higher education system and the difficulties that some have actually recognized. Prof, will you care or do you mind sharing some thoughts on that?
The National University Commission the National University Commission of Nigeria started the issue, the accreditation of university academic programs in universities in 1990. Actually, I was a member of the panel that did the accreditation for the University of Lagos Faculty of Science in 1990 when it began. But it was purely academic with very serious focus, serious-minded people. The only thing we did, the Vice Chancellor, was just a handshake when we started, just good morning, that we were here and so on. But now, no, it's no longer anyone. Accreditation is a sham, mockery. How can you talk about accreditation in Nigerian university when you don't have water and light 24 hours? We're just joking. Any country in Africa that cannot provide water and light 24/7, 365 has no business establishing universities.
That's a bold statement.
Any country in Africa that cannot provide light, cannot provide water 24 hours, has no business establishing. But why don't you stop deceiving ourselves? How do you do research? You do research in the science field without water and light? Even in the arts, you do research in the arts without light. See some people in their rooms roasting away like sweating like rats, and you tell me these are universities that are research. So we're joking, we're really joking. And the moment Africa takes this thing seriously, that's why we're talking about leadership, African leadership. That's the issue. Until something happens, any that provide the basic facilities. My brother, would you want to be told that in some universities in this country, some lecturers, some students, male and female, go to surrounding bushes to use as toilets at those universities?
Wow.
Come on. Let's just stop deceiving ourselves.
But do these amenities...
No, not finished. And these people, those members of panel who go for this accreditation, they take pride. They're dishonest, they're untruthful, and corrupt. Whenever that was when it began, that was not the issue. I've seen they physically demand money from proprietors or vice chancellors. What are you talking about? So it's all the mockery. And the earlier we tell our professors that our professors are involved in this thing. Some of them are, many of them are professors. They're dishonest. And they're not being fair in this country.
How do we fix this?
No, just a minute. You see a lecturer, there are so many things required for accreditation.
Okay.
You want to see the number of staff, the quality of staff, the support staff, physically, see them face to face, the number of students, the student-staff ratio. So many things are demanded. You look for the laboratories, go to the laboratories, or you're looking for, if it's chemistry, you're looking for this equipment, NMR, you're looking for UV, you're looking for infrared. Those things are not found in all these universities. But they also have full accreditation at the end of the day. That's what's annoying people like us. There was a university I know with only one lecturer one, not the professor. In chemistry, the department had full accreditation. Come on, can't we stop joking?
How do we fix this?
We fix it with, first of all, leadership. We don't do leadership. If the politicians don't believe in education, so how do they do that? Because they do the funding. And there's a lot of, my brother, there's a lot of poverty. Let me tell you. In 2007, the furniture allowance, the housing allowance, and the car allowance of only three that, there are more than usually about 9 of them. The three allowances, a senator in Nigeria are equivalent to a professor's salaries for 70 and a half years. So just the housing allowance, furniture allowance, car allowance can pay a 70 professor's salary in a year. You know that. Nowadays, of course, it's painful. I don't know, you've not been to Nigeria for quite a while, I don't. But you also read what's going on. We have terrible, the financial situation. That's why I start activism. The financial situation is terrible. The professor cannot even be given, does not even have bicycle allowance, even to buy a bicycle. Nobody gives any allowance to buy a bicycle. It's as bad as that. And others are buying bulletproof cars. Politicians are buying bulletproof cars. And people are clapping.
Is it a sign that a republic that puts a lot a lot of focus on politicians as against research and also against the people who are impacting the future of the country, would certainly have a lot of difficulties. Do you, on your own, advise younger people to go into academia in Nigeria and on the continent?
You know, I have a son. My third son narrowly missed the first class in chemical engineering.
Okay.
The vice chancellor of the federal university, the vice chancellor, the deputy vice chancellor, appealed to me to allow the boy to come to the university to be a graduate assistant and grow in the system. I refused. I said, look at the mom, look at the mother, look at the father. Nothing to show in terms of money, comfort. So I refused. So that tells you if a person of my caliber could prevent my son from becoming a university lecturer, you know that the system is hopeless for now.
I want you to advise, because we know that you are a scholar of international repute and renown. We know that you are a man who's actually lived a proper life when it comes to intellectual and academic engagements. What advice do you have for intellectuals, not only in Nigeria, but across the continent?
Young intellectuals or old intellectuals?
Young, yes, of course, up and coming ones.
Upcoming intellectuals.
Yes.
Yeah. My brother, it's painful when I see Nigerian young academic derailing almost irretrievable. You know, now young lecturers own mansions, own exotic cars in this country.
I see.
Extort money from students. Extort money by different tricks and devices. They call them sorting. They call them all sorts of names, like the blocking. They have names for them, blocking, sorting. So these young students have derailed. The older ones don't have such things. But these you small, I call them small boy academics, own mansions. And people are clapping for them and doing well. When their old professors live in huts, more or less. So something is wrong. But they have to do what they need to do. What my advice for them is: one, they should imbibe the ethics of scholarship and intellectualism. The game has its rules. There are rules. Not just that become a bad academic. The game has its rules. They should stop publishing all the useless, spurious papers they write, them publishing quack journals all over the place. They should stop being, they should desist from engaging in corruption. Things like that. And the younger lecturer, academic, should also subject themselves to mentorship by revered elderly scholars. Many of them engage in publishing, becoming editors. How can a neophyte become an editor? A so-called national, make a mockery of all these things, So these are my advice. That first of all, they should imbibe the ethics of scholarship and intellectualism, because the game, as I said, has its rules. You don't just become an academic because you have one funny period. You must have the quality, right? As we said before.
Now, Prof, I need you to forecast into the future of university education, higher learning, and intellectualism on the continent? Is there really a future for it? Let's start with Nigeria. Is there light at the end of the tunnel?
Not yet, not in Nigeria. But maybe, but why are Nigerians moving to Ghana, to South Africa, to send their children, those who can afford? Why don't they remain? It has collapsed, yeah. People buy degrees. Come on. People buy degrees. You want me to tell you? I've told you now.
That's dangerous, isn't it?
Well, you've said so.
It's a sign of a greater decay in society.
I tell you, yeah, that's collapse. You know, I remember the quotation I gave you about Martin Luther.
True.
You know?
Yeah.
The prosperity of a nation does not depend on its resources, nor on the strength of its fortifications, nor on the beauty of its public buildings, but it consists in the number of its cultivated citizens, in its men of education, enlightenment, and character.
Is current leadership of the country present and alive to its responsibilities when it comes to the current decay happening at the level of tertiary education?
Now?
Yes.
Where?
I'm asking whether are they aware and are they working to fix the problems?
No. What Nigerians are aware is how to fix their pockets.
Okay, that's an interesting one. No, that's an interesting point. But even so, you have a certain love. You have a certain connection despite all the problems you have enumerated. You still care deeply about your father's land, that is Nigeria. Why so?
Well, I love Nigeria and I was from Africa, but I'm not happy because Nigeria is lagging behind in world affairs. Nigeria could have look at Nigeria, look at the resources we have. God has never blessed the country. I don't know. I'm not. Maybe I don't sound religious. I don't think any country has been as blessed as Nigeria by God Almighty. We're messing up ourselves. We're derailed, completely derailed. So as I said, it's all leadership problem. Leadership, not Nigeria alone, Africa. Leadership.
Now, you mentioned this leadership issue. You have really been a huge critic of Nigerian politicians. Indeed, you seem to believe that the governance system in Nigeria is too expensive and it's not fit for purpose. You damn Nigerian politicians for woefully humiliating and devaluing professorate. You lambast them as corrupt and more. What are the issues and what can be done differently?
Well, you've said it all. I mean, you said it all. The politicians have, since Nigerians place so much premium on wealth, not knowledge. So that's where we are. We are. They think that money is everything. The type of policies we have now, really, I don't know. We had before in this country, we practiced the parliamentary system.
Yeah.
And it led to so many things: carpet crossing, hero worshipping, and violence. That's how the First Republic collapsed. That was the cause of the crime. But this thing we call the presidential system was copied in Nigeria hastily and wrongly, I must say. Is democracy working in Nigeria and Africa? I'm asking you, is democracy working?
It was a question I was about asking you, mindful of your competence, experience, and knowledge in the area. Do you think it is yielding and producing the dividends of democracy? Not just in Nigeria, but on the entire continent of Africa.
Sorry. What is democracy? Democracy is that popular definition or the construct. Is the government of the people, by the people, for the people, which was a personal construct of Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
The question is it working? Not only in Africa, is it even working in the world? Is democracy working in America? Even now. Come on. The thing is that this democracy, particularly this presidential system, is a winner-take-all system. Doesn't go well of Africa, and will not. There's a lot of impunity. There's a lot of lawlessness. There's a lot of bravado, sheer bravado. So Africa can get like this. The question is this: what system of government will Africa adopt? This is a very difficult thing, and to say, to discuss. But all I can say is that Africa needs a system of government that shifts power to the people, and that the person to be at the helm of affairs, man or woman, should be a man. That should be a person of a person of integrity, and must be a visionary, and must also be charismatic. Must be a charismatic or visionary person, endowed with integrity and even-handedness. That kind of system. What now will do for it? Because let us not deceive ourselves. Democracy is not working in Africa. The system, the way it is being practiced now, is not working. And even America, you can see that it's not working. The only difference between Nigeria and America, for example, in America, there are checks and balances. Here, in Nigeria, there are no checks and balances. The executive, the legislature, the judiciary, they've all fused, they've fused. So that is a problem. I don't know what it is in Ghana now, but in Nigeria, there's not much difference. Come on, there's no difference. The executive, the legislature, and the judiciary have fused. That is not the type of policies we're talking about. What I'm trying to say in our country, that in Nigeria now, there are no checks and balances. Because once there are no checks and balances, the thing is, whatever system of democracy you have practiced is defeated.
That's a very interesting perspective. Now, is it possible, and people ask the question consistently, you have described what the alternative should be like, but are these realistic things that can be achieved anytime soon? Upending democracy and putting in place a system that works, is it likely to be attained anytime soon?
No, it's not. There needs to be a rebirth, a political rebirth, or we need to be born again politically to be able to achieve that. I think it will take time. That's fine. It's not a thing that you can go overnight. It takes quite some time, and there must be a rethinking. A new type, a new generation, because this generation, and it's getting worse, the younger people are thinking of talking about are running after money. In other words, their focus is on money, not on governance. We're talking about governance, you know. But we have not given up. You know, particularly like Africa, in Africa, before. Look, don't you have African Union? We have. We have African Union.
Yes.
Well, what is African Union doing? African Union has consists of 55 member states.
Mm-hmm.
What is African Union doing? It's just, to me, to some of us, African Union is even an embarrassment to us. African Union is an omnibus that could pass for a jamboree. What has African Union done? You know, look, African Union has one of the technical committees of the African Union, the Committee on Education,
mm-hmm.
Culture, and Human Resources. What have that critical committee done? Nothing. Africa, really? Tell me, at what level is scholarship really enhanced in Nigeria? To a point, enviable point. You know? So, and Africa, they just meet and a jamboree and then talk about African culture. Because I expect that African, education should be boosted in such a way that Africa will be, it's education that will prevent Africa from economic stagnation and prevent our people from being plunged into poverty forever. We're talking about Africa, we're talking about African culture. What's African culture? It's because people have got it wrong also. But that's one part of this committee I'm talking about. Culture is beyond dancing and merrymaking. Culture is beyond exhibition of artifacts and weapons of war of our ancestors. Culture is beyond the wearing of a leopard skin as some leaders in South Africa do. What is the wearing? Is that going to enhance African? Is that we want a kind of African culture a kind of African culture that enhance our African identity, African pride. You know, African pride, African identity, and then exposure to global consciousness. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about, not this thing. So we need intellectuals like you. I think we need to meet in Africa and say something to the African Union, because I think it's the dormant and docile. I think they should do more than that. What they're doing now, particularly vis-a-vis education, at all levels.
It's been very illuminating engaging you, Prof. But some of your colleague academics are of the opinion that you are a man who is exceedingly angry. What response do you give to them when they say things like that to you?
No, I'm angrier. I get angrier. But jokes apart. Well, I don't know. Is angry. This is what is the anger for? For the betterment of Nigeria and Africa. I wish our people were. That's all. I'm not carrying a gun to shoot Africans. We are trying to solve African problems like you do. Even by this interaction, all of us are collective, finding a way to fix them.
But on a more serious note, do you wish they joined you in pushing for a better, a more prosperous, a working Africa, rather than taking these snide comments of you being angry or anything related to it?
No. All that is fun, just fun. And those who no. I'm not carrying a gun against anybody.
Okay.
No.
All right.
We wish Africa well. And Nigeria well.
Now,
And Ghana.
I'll take final words from you, specifically to the young people, to the leadership on the continent.
Yes, the leadership on the continent, I should start with that. The leaders should show a good example. Show a good example. You know? That's the issue. And Africans are capable of showing example. How many mansions? I don't know. I've been to Ghana 2 times. But how many mansions did Nkrumah have?
Actually, none.
Maybe. Sorry?
None.
How many mansions did Nyerere have? None. Nyerere, none. I know that. Because people had to help build a house for his friends. The man who was the president of the country, the founder of the country, if you like. So it's leadership problem, committed leadership, but not just politician alone, intellect. Because all these, Nkrumah was an intellectual, Zikiwe was an intellectual, Awolowo was an intellectual, Nyerere was an intellectual, Obote was an intellectual. All these people were intellectual. The man in Angola, these are intellect. Patrice Lumumba, they were intellectuals, because they didn't need to have PhD, but they were intellectuals. At least most of them, not all, have master's degree and could reason and rationalize events. So we need quality leadership, and we show good example. And when the quality leadership is available, is placed, the younger people will also show the line of they will learn to also behave. And that is my, I think, first of all, the elders, they will show good example. And then the younger ones will follow suit. That's my final word, if that's what you want.
Prof, Emeritus Professor Steve Okecha, I am very grateful for the time you have spent with us today. And we are grateful that you are alive. We are grateful that people like you still exist to educate the rest of us on this continent. Not only Nigerians, though. We thank you so much for the honor you've done to us this day.
Thank you.
Well, folks, that's where we end today's edition of The Sages with Professor Emeritus Steve Okecha. Many thanks to you for watching.